It all kicked off with a pasta video, but this wasn't just any cooking tutorial. It was a full-blown disaster in the making. Meghan Markle, trying to keep it real in the kitchen, somehow turned a simple recipe into a shocking spectacle that had Gordon Ramsay on the edge of his seat, furious. From finger-licking to unsafe knife skills, this wasn't just bad cooking. It was a culinary catastrophe that left millions questioning everything they thought they knew about kitchen safety. Stick around, because what happened next will leave you speechless. Meghan Markle's cooking video was supposed to be the perfect blend of elegance and relatability. Just another charming, down-to-earth moment to connect with her audience. Picture this: soft lighting, a calm kitchen, and Meghan casually tossing pasta while promoting a lifestyle of effortless living. The kind of video that leaves you feeling inspired to get cooking. But instead of the picture-perfect cooking moment everyone was expecting, what they got was something far more chaotic. In the first few minutes, Meghan's relatable vibe started to crack under the weight of some serious kitchen missteps. As she prepared the pasta, she casually waved her hand over the boiling water, ring-covered fingers dancing above the pot like she was casting a spell. Then came the real shocker. She licked her fingers mid-stir before grabbing the same knife again. No hesitation, no hand washing in sight. For any chef watching, this was an immediate red flag. Hygiene in the kitchen is sacred, and this move, along with her lack of caution, was a clear violation of the basic rules every cook knows. But that was just the beginning. What seemed like harmless cooking turned into a lesson in culinary disasters, as Meghan's knife skills quickly became the main topic of conversation. Instead of the clean, precise cuts expected from someone on camera, she hacked away at ingredients like a toddler with safety scissors. What should have been a simple, refined pasta prep was now a high-speed disaster unfolding right before everyone's eyes. And for those watching closely, including Gordon Ramsay, this wasn't just an innocent mistake, it was a masterclass in how not to cook. The moment Gordon Ramsay saw Meghan Markle's cooking video, it was like a pressure cooker about to explode. Picture it, Ramsay, knife in hand, in his restaurant's pristine kitchen, reviewing a menu and going through his daily routine. Then, someone shows him the clip of Meghan's charming cooking tutorial. At first, he probably thought it was a joke, but as the video unfolded, he quickly realized it was anything but. Gordon, a chef who spent his life perfecting his craft and holding high standards for food safety, allegedly couldn't believe what he was watching. The hygiene violations, finger licking, and the lack of hand washing set him off immediately. But it wasn't just that. It was the knife skills, or more accurately, the complete lack of them. Meghan, a self-proclaimed home cook with no formal training, butchered her ingredients like she'd never seen a chef knife before. And for Ramsay, someone who built an empire around proper technique, precision, and safety, it was like watching a car crash in slow motion. What really set Gordon's blood boiling, though, wasn't just the lack of culinary expertise. It was the audacity of presenting this chaos to millions of viewers as if it was perfectly fine. Meghan wasn't fumbling through the recipe, admitting to mistakes, or laughing it off. She was calmly presenting everything like she was a seasoned pro. For Gordon and many other chefs, this wasn't just a cooking fail. It was a dangerous display of bad habits being passed off as expert advice. The more he watched, the angrier he became, allegedly muttering under his breath and shaking his head in disbelief. To Gordon, this wasn't just about bad cooking, it was about the complete disregard for what real chefs and real food safety stand for. As the video continued, the mistakes piled up, each one more glaring than the last, but none as shocking as the hygiene violations that Meghan seemed to brush off. It wasn't just about the food, it was about the way she handled everything in the kitchen with an utter disregard for basic sanitation. For any professional chef, hygiene is sacred. It's drilled into your head from day one: wash your hands, keep your work surface clean, and never, never lick your fingers and then grab a knife. But that's exactly what Meghan did. First, there was the finger licking. Meghan, mid-stir, casually licked her fingers, then grabbed the knife again to continue chopping, no thought of washing her hands. Any chef worth their salt knows that touching raw food with unwashed hands is a recipe for disaster. But Meghan, she just kept going, completely oblivious to the danger she was putting herself and her viewers in. Worse still, after touching her hair and adjusting her jewelry, something no chef would do without thoroughly washing their hands, she went right back to stirring the pasta. For Gordon, who's built his entire career on food safety, Watching this unfold was nothing short of horrifying. It didn't end there. Meghan, without a second thought, wiped her hands on her clothes. No towels, no hand washing, just a quick swipe of the sleeve and then back to the pot. Gordon, reportedly seething by this point, allegedly muttered something along the lines of, "That's how you make people sick, not dinner." For Gordon, this wasn't just a minor misstep. It was an outright failure to respect the basics of kitchen hygiene. And the real problem wasn't just that Meghan didn't know better, it was the fact that she was presenting this untrained, unhygienic approach to millions of viewers. It wasn't just an innocent mistake, it was a dangerous example being set for anyone watching at home. If there was one thing that really sent Gordon Ramsay into a fury, it was Meghan's complete lack of knife skills. For a chef like Ramsay, knife work is more than just chopping ingredients. It's an art, a skill honed over years of training and experience. So, when he watched Meghan hack at her vegetables with all the precision of a toddler wielding safety scissors, he reportedly lost it. Her technique wasn't just sloppy, it was dangerous. As she cut through the onions, there was no control, no finesse, just chaotic, wild chopping. Her fingers were splayed out like she was playing piano, leaving them dangerously close to the blade. There was no rock chop motion, no steady grip. The knife didn't glide through the onion, it looked more like it was flailing around, barely making the cut. Ramsay, who spent his entire life teaching chefs how to hold a knife properly, couldn't believe what he was watching. To him, it was a crime against kitchen safety. But this wasn't just about technique, it was about the message being sent. Meghan, with no culinary training or experience, was showing millions of viewers how to handle a knife like it was no big deal. For professional chefs, this is not just careless, it's reckless. A slip of the knife, even in the most controlled of kitchens, can lead to serious injury. And in Meghan's hands, it was clear that this wasn't just an amateur mistake. It was a lack of respect for the very tools that professional chefs rely on. To Gordon, watching her misuse something as basic as a knife felt like a slap in the face to every chef who spent years perfecting their craft. If Gordon Ramsay wasn't already on edge, the garlic incident definitely pushed him over the edge. Garlic, one of the most basic ingredients in any kitchen, should be treated with respect and care. But Meghan, seemingly oblivious to the culinary basics, proceeded to mince the garlic in the most haphazard way possible. There was no technique, no proper smash and chop motion, just random pokes and prods until a few pathetic lumps of garlic ended up on the cutting board. For any seasoned cook, this was not just a mistake. It was a clear violation of everything a professional chef is taught when handling garlic. The knife should glide through the clove with precision, using a quick press to release the flavors, followed by a smooth chop. But Meghan's attempt looked like she was stabbing at it with no purpose, wasting the ingredient and losing all its potential. Gordon, no stranger to culinary frustration, reportedly muttered something along the lines of, "That's garlic abuse." For Gordon, and anyone who's worked in a professional kitchen, this was the kind of mistake that can make even the most patient chefs lose their cool. It wasn't just the poor technique, it was the complete lack of respect for an essential element of cooking. And the worst part, Meghan was presenting this disaster as if it was perfectly normal, as if this was an acceptable way to handle ingredients. It wasn't just bad cooking, it was dangerous cooking. In a professional kitchen, this would have been a firing offense. But for Meghan, it seemed like just another day in the kitchen, and that's what had Gordon and other chefs livid. If there was one moment that completely shattered any remaining semblance of culinary credibility in Meghan's video, it was the infamous preserved lemon jar incident. As Meghan reached into the jar to grab a lemon, she casually stuck her unwashed fingers directly into it, pulling out the fruit like she was fishing for compliments. No spoon, no gloves, just bare fingers that had already been through hair fluffing, jewelry adjusting, and finger-licking rounds. In the world of professional cooking, this is the equivalent of throwing the safety manual out the window. For any chef, this was a cardinal sin. Preserved lemons, like any other ingredient in a kitchen, should be handled with care and respect to prevent contamination. By diving in with her hands that had just touched everything from her hair to her jewelry, Meghan wasn't just ignoring basic hygiene rules, she was risking foodborne illness. To Gordon, this wasn't just an oversight, it was a blatant disregard for the very principles of kitchen safety that he spent years teaching. Speaking of jewelry, it wasn't just a ring or two Meghan had on her hands. No, she was fully decked out with bracelets, a chunky watch, and rings stacked high, all hovering dangerously close to boiling liquids in sizzling pans. For any professional chef, this is an absolute no-go. Jewelry in the kitchen can carry bacteria, get caught on pot handles, and even trap food particles. It's more than just an aesthetic issue, it's a serious safety risk. Gordon, who's drilled food safety into every one of his chefs, reportedly started listing off potential injuries and contaminations like he was reading a health code violation manual. One culinary expert even joked that Meghan looked more ready for a red carpet event than a cooking show. This wasn't just about Meghan's lack of culinary skill, it was about the way she presented her reckless approach to cooking as something glamorous, as if the rules didn't apply because she had a big following. The jewelry, the finger dipping, the casual disregard for cleanliness, it all screamed that she was more interested in looking good on camera than actually following any of the safety protocols real chefs swear by. For Gordon, this was a line that shouldn't have been crossed, especially not by someone with a platform to influence millions. If the hygiene violations weren't enough to send Gordon Ramsay into a full-blown rage, Meghan's hair and cutting board issues certainly pushed him to the brink. In professional kitchens, there are strict rules about hair. It's not just about looking neat, it's about safety. Hair must be tied back, tucked under a cap, or secured in some way to prevent it from falling into the food. But there was Meghan, her hair flowing freely, practically dancing over the food like it was part of a shampoo commercial. Every strand was a potential health hazard. And for someone like Gordon, who holds himself and his team to the highest hygiene standards, this was more than just a fashion faux pas. It was a violation of basic kitchen protocol. But it didn't stop there. As Meghan continued her cooking lesson, another disaster unfolded: the cutting board. It wasn't just sliding around the counter, it was practically skating across it like it had its own mind. In any professional kitchen, a slippery cutting board is an immediate safety hazard. There's a simple fix for this: dampening a towel to place underneath the board to keep it in place. But Meghan, she didn't bother with that. Her cutting board slid all over the place as she tried to chop, making it nearly impossible to maintain any control over her knife. This isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's dangerous. One wrong slip and a sharp knife could lead to a serious injury, potentially creating a viral video for all the wrong reasons. For Gordon, watching this unfold was the final straw. A wobbly cutting board and loose hair aren't just cosmetic issues, they're safety risks. Professional chefs are taught from day one to always maintain control over their environment, from the tools they use to the way they present themselves. Watching Meghan, someone with millions of followers, fail to follow the most basic rules while handling sharp knives and hot food was like watching a car crash in slow motion. And what made it even worse was that she wasn't even acknowledging the risks. Instead, she was casually presenting herself as if these were normal, acceptable kitchen practices. For Gordon and any serious chef, this was more than a mistake. It was an irresponsible and dangerous display of bad habits being showcased for the world to see. At this point, Gordon Ramsay's frustration wasn't just about bad cooking and safety violations. It was about the business side of the video, which he saw as a calculated marketing move disguised as a relatable home cooking session. As the video continued, it became increasingly clear that this wasn't just a casual cooking tutorial. There were subtle but intentional product placements throughout, including the wine bottle positioned perfectly in the frame, the lemons teased with a coming soon caption, and the overall aesthetic that screamed more about branding than culinary expertise. To Gordon, this wasn't just a cooking disaster. It was a calculated commercial being passed off as a genuine cooking segment. For someone like Meghan, whose brand is built on authenticity, the seamless way everything was presented started to feel disingenuous. As she casually sipped her rosé mid-cook, it felt more like a lifestyle ad than a cooking tutorial. The perfect camera angles, the wine bottle that just happened to be positioned label forward, and the subtle product teases, it all started to look more like a carefully orchestrated commercial than a real cooking lesson. To Gordon, this was where the line was crossed. It wasn't just about bad cooking anymore, it was about using the kitchen as a backdrop for a well-rehearsed branding strategy. And that, to him, was an insult to the craft. As if the hygiene violations, chaotic knife skills, and questionable branding weren't enough, Meghan Markle's pasta disaster took a deeper, more cultural turn that set off even more alarms for Gordon Ramsay and professional chefs around the world. The turning point. when Meghan poured what looked like an entire river of olive oil over her pasta and called it Italian style. For Italian chefs, and anyone who truly understands the art of pasta, this was nothing short of culinary blasphemy. Pasta, to the Italians, isn't just a meal. It's a tradition, a cultural touchstone passed down through generations. From Rome to New York, real Italian chefs were allegedly horrified by Meghan's attempt to serve up a dish that completely disregarded centuries of technique. Drowning pasta in olive oil without reserving any pasta water or using the proper sauce technique was a cardinal sin in their eyes. To them, it wasn't just a bad recipe, it was an insult to everything they hold dear about their food culture. One insider even claimed that contestants on MasterChef Junior, literal children, showed more respect for Italian food than Meghan did in that video. As the video continued to unravel, Gordon Ramsay's frustration shifted from the cooking mistakes to something even more troubling: the rise of influencer culture in the culinary world. For years, Ramsay has championed discipline, technique, and respect for food. But what Meghan Markle's video represented was the complete opposite: the normalization of chaos dressed up as cooking. In this new world, it wasn't about mastering a craft or respecting traditions. It was about creating content that looked good on camera. Cooking had become less about the food itself and more about how marketable you could make the experience. Gordon's major issue wasn't even with the cooking itself, but with the underlying message Meghan's video sent to her millions of followers. The video, polished and curated to perfection, gave the impression that anyone could be a chef, just by owning a good camera, a few stylish props, and a large social media following. The idea that anyone, regardless of their skill or knowledge, could casually promote unsafe kitchen practices as the new normal was, to Gordon, the epitome of everything wrong with modern influencer culture. It wasn't about food anymore, it was about selling a lifestyle. As the dust settled on the initial shock of Meghan's pasta disaster, Gordon Ramsay's thoughts turned to something more concerning: the long-term impact of this video and the message it was sending to millions of viewers. For Gordon, it wasn't just about the one-off mistakes. What really bothered him was the way this video could shape how home cooks, particularly young, impressionable ones, viewed cooking. The more you watch these types of videos, the more you begin to believe that cooking doesn't require real skill or knowledge. As long as you look good on camera, as long as the lighting is perfect, it almost didn't matter whether you followed basic culinary principles or not. Gordon's concern was simple. If viewers continued to see influencers like Meghan confidently demonstrating poor cooking techniques without consequences, the line between entertainment and education would blur beyond recognition. What happens when the next generation of cooks believes they can toss ingredients together with no regard for hygiene or technique just because they saw someone with millions of followers do it? The thought of it made Gordon furious. The real danger wasn't in the pasta video itself. It was in the normalization of this approach to cooking, one that placed style over substance, appearance over accuracy. The message that fame, not skill, could carry you through the kitchen was not just misleading, it was irresponsible. In the end, Meghan Markle's pasta video wasn't just a cooking failure. It was a glaring example of how influencer culture has crept into the culinary world, often at the expense of technique, safety, and tradition. What began as a lighthearted attempt to share a cooking moment quickly became a lesson in what not to do in the kitchen. From finger licking to unsafe knife skills and unsanitary food handling, the video showed millions of viewers that looking good on camera could somehow outweigh the need for basic culinary knowledge. For Gordon Ramsay, this wasn't just about bad cooking, it was about the dangerous message being sent to an audience that might not know any better. The real issue wasn't the chaos in Meghan's kitchen, it was the idea that this kind of content could pass as authentic and, worse, be used as a platform to sell products and ideas. For chefs like Gordon, who have spent their careers perfecting their craft, watching someone with no training misrepresent food so carelessly wasn't just disappointing, it was a betrayal of everything the culinary world stands for. As the dust settles and the viral moment fades, the true consequences of videos like this are yet to be seen. Will the next generation of cooks take this anything goes approach into their own kitchens? Will they learn that true cooking is about more than aesthetics and viral moments? For Gordon and other chefs who care deeply about the craft, the hope is that viewers will eventually realize that authenticity in cooking isn't about the image. It's about the skill, respect for ingredients, and care that goes into every dish. Because when the cameras turn off and the brands stop promoting, what really matters is what you're serving at the table.